Now, the second part of when my wife and I and our son flew to New York because my mother was dying from a series of strokes and we had to fly home. My father asked me to come home, and unfortunately, if you see the first part, my wife was inebriated getting to the airport, on the airport, and continued in Chicago on our way to New York. And by the time we landed in Syracuse, is when we got home. She was fairly well three sheets to the wind, even though we'd been in the air for 5 or 6 hours. We got off the plane, which took quite a while, and luckily my brother was picking us up, and he saw us come down the stairs, and he just kind of looked at me like what's going on with your wife? And I just kind of went, and he knew the deal. I mean, he knew she struggled with it quite a bit. He'd met her enough. I mean, everybody loved Amanda. That's not the problem. The problem was, everybody in the family, my family, knew that she had a serious problem, and they were supportive of her, and they certainly cared a great deal for her. It was just they understood it as a disease, and they're very educated about this. I mean, they understood the deal, and unfortunately, it was still embarrassing at this time. And my brother picked us up, and we ended up going to the lake house, which was on Oneida Lake, and everybody was there because it was actually the 4th of July, and they always have a party at the 4th of July. And when I got there, I was very nervous because there was alcohol, there was wine, there was beer, all over the camp. It was a party. It was a 4th of July party. And as soon as we got there, I just went, oh no. And really, the good thing was at that time was things were starting to wrap up because we had come in very late and it was already getting dark. I think fireworks had already gone off even, and then, and some of the people were already leaving. It was nice to saw my sister, my dad, a lot of my cousins were there, and I had a hard talk with my dad about what was going on with our mother, and it was an emotional time. And I really found out the whole deal with my mother. She was a lot worse than my dad was really leading on. My brother kind of gave me more of an update. I'll get into that a little bit more, but I really signaled to my couple of my cousins and my sister to clean the alcohol up as quickly as you can because they were starting to pack up, and they did. I mean, there were some wine bottles and stuff, and they put them in boxes and they put them in the car because Amanda was there. So there wasn't a whole lot left around. I mean, I think there was a couple bottles of wine that had a little bit in them. And she actually did have a glass of wine and sat down with us. And I think she actually started mellowing out and realizing this, even for her, this was not an opportunity to sit there and drink. It was a celebration, but it was also a very, very hard time. And we knew it was going to be a tough couple weeks. So later that night, we eventually drove to my dad's house, which was about 45 minutes away. My brother drove us there. Finally got Amanda up into my bed, my old bedroom that I grew up in. It was always kind of a trip going there. And then, the next morning we got up, and it was very strange because my brother and my sister would go to the hospital because my mother was in the hospital with my dad. And the first day I didn't go. And then because we had just flown in, we were tired, and we hung out. My son and I hung out outside, and we went outside, walked around. It was nice being, around trees and grass and stuff, because living in Southern California is a lot of desert. But my brother came home, after the hospital later that afternoon, and he came to me. He goes, "Andy, do you realize I put a 12-pack of beer in the refrigerator? Did you guys drink it all, or do you know what happened to it?" I looked at him like, "I haven't had any beer. What are you talking about?" And we looked at each other and went, You put a 12-pack of beer in the garage refrigerator, and they're all gone." And I go, "Where do you think they went?" I go, "Did you guys leave somewhere?" I go, "My son and I were outside for a couple hours, like playing lacrosse in the backyard, and I showed him the old neighborhood, and we came home. I'm like, well, they're gone. Guess where?" And again, these stories are never to disparage Amanda or alcoholics in general. It's to understand what families have to go through, that no matter what the situation, they do not have the ability to lower their guard. They always have to become babysitters, prisoner guards, and police officers, drug and alcohol counselors as well, apparently. These are all the hats that family must wear in order for self-preservation, for themselves and to make sure that the alcoholic in their life doesn't put themselves in harm's way. In the meantime, it's horribly embarrassing. My brother was a little bit pissed off that he had just bought a 12-pack for everybody if they wanted a beer, but he wasn't, in the mindset that it had been that Amanda was this bad where she would just completely vaporize the 12-pack in a couple hours. And later I went upstairs and, there's 12 empty beer cans, bottles. They were bottles underneath our bed, empty, gone. And she was sound asleep on top of the bed. And I just looked there and went, this is going to be a rough few weeks. Another thing a lot of people don't realize when it comes to family members, being a family member to an alcoholic, in a situation like this, your main concern is not the alcoholic. I mean, my mother was dying. I mean, she had maybe 18% of her brain activity left. She was completely bedridden. The right side of her body was completely immobilized. She really didn't have a lot of quality of life and function going on. So, I mean, after the second day, I went and visited her, and it was just my son and I. My wife just didn't want to go. She said it was too emotional for her to go. And I realized, I wasn't even thinking that we were leaving her back, even with everything that was going on. I thought, there's no alcohol in the house at this point. She had the 12-pack, and nobody else bought any after that. And unfortunately, nothing could have been further from the truth, because I guess we weren't thinking in terms of everything that was in the house. I'll finish this up in the next video. And again, the memoir is called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. It's the story of her 25-year decline with alcohol use disorder. And unfortunately, very unfortunately, she did pass away almost 5 years ago. Again, I go live Monday through Friday, right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Link is in my link tree if you want to join the Facebook group. It's called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. And when you're ready to work with me one-on-one, I have the coaching program. Again, link is in the link tree. Set up a breakthrough call. It takes about 45 minutes. We do a deep dive into what's going on with you, and your family. The call is free. The course is definitely not, but I'm looking for people who want to change their lives and the lives of their family. And again, thanks so much for listening.